So, everybody's dead. How about we start at the beginning?
Okay, here we go. Jess, Frida, this is my childhood buddy, Cody. Vic, my left and right hand man.
Perfect.
Tom.
Hi. All right, who did this?
This is Frida, Sarah, Frida.
Cute nails. Thank you.
This is our resident wonder boy, Heather, Camilla. Hey, what's up, man? I don't know who that is. We're going to my island for a few days. Do you guys want to come?
This is crazy. Did we just jet off to a billionaire's island with a bunch of strangers?
No, he's not a stranger. He's Slater King.
Everybody say, making memories! Making memories!
You having a good time?
We're having a great time.
We're drinking champagne and we're eating amazing food. So do you think the human sacrifice is before or after dinner?
The legendary parties of Slater King. Not what I thought it was gonna be.
We still have fun. It's just a little different now.
What do you mean?
Phones, please. Wait, for real?
You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do.
I'm having a great time here. But I also have this feeling that I'm like, not.
Where's my knife? Who has my knife?
Oh, dude, your eye.
What? Oh, no, I know, right?
There's something weird going on here.
Everybody's smiling and laughing like 1960s flight attendants. Like, I'm having a good time. I'm like, I'm having a great time.
Can't you feel it? There's something wrong with this place.
Where's Jess?
Who's Jess?
My friend that was in the room next to mine. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! I feel like we're forgetting like a lot of stuff.
Okay, but like, how? Something's making us forget.
Uh-oh.
Blink twice if I'm in danger.
Well, maybe not. Let's not answer that one, right?
It's Jay, back in for another one. And tonight I have with me
Captain Keith.
What's good? What's good?
Nothing. Living the dream, baby. Living the dream. Last day of that Mercury retrograde. Can't wait for it to be over. Yeah, man.
Feeling it.
You already know, man. You already know. But strangely, I'm surprised. There's been some films this summer that I've been wanting to go to see. So I feel a little bit better about some of the stuff I saw this summer versus last summer.
Okay.
Surprisingly, like I felt like towards the end of summer they was holding some stuff for me. So
yeah, they were holding a lot of stuff, but just because of how how the movie slate goes, so a lot of stuff we were backed up for a few years, so we were getting kind of stale bread. So now we're getting some newer stuff. So that's kind of nice to have new stuff kind of coming through. All right, so Blink Twice, the directorial debut of Zoë Kravitz. And she also wrote it and had a co-writer with the guy, E.T. something, but he worked with her on that TV show High Fidelity. That based off that John Cusack movie back in the day. So they did it.
Show.
So they did. You didn't like that show?
I barely finished the first episode. After I watched that first episode, I was done. I barely finished the first episode. I was disgusted.
Okay. You're funny. Yeah, I kind of dug it, but it was a show kind of out of time. But anytime you have anything like a record store, that's not going to hit everybody the same. At least a modern time or modern person, like when we're in a digital age and all that kind of stuff. So, but it kind of
felt it was very anti-black male, just from the first episode.
Well, I think most things are nowadays anyway. So
yeah, that's the whole. We'll have to do a conversation on that because I agree with you. So
yeah, so that's a running thing. Okay, I will give a synopsis and then we will discuss. We'll give our non-spoiler thoughts on it, and then we'll go into spoiler conversation. Let's see how this rolls off my tongue. Let's see how this goes. When a tech billionaire, Slater King, meets a cocktail waitress, Frida, at a fundraising gala, he invites her to join him and his friends on a dream vacation on his private island. As strange things start to happen, Frida questions her reality. And once again, it was directed by Zoë Kravitz and also written by Zoë Kravitz. I know I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but it's E.T. Fergenbaum, I believe his name is. And like I said, I was a writer on the show High Fidelity. I didn't realize this was her, but it stars Naomi Ackie and Channing Tatum and a whole bunch of other folks. It's funny all the different kind of people that they had on there, because it's like old and new folks that we haven't seen in a while, like Christian Slater and Simon Rex and stuff like that. So it was kind of neat to see them faces. Gina Davis. That was
that came out of nowhere. Did not expect to see her at all.
Right, especially in a movie like this. I miss seeing her, you know.
Yeah, it was good to see her though. It was.
Yeah.
I feel like Miss Kravitz received a nice budget for this movie. The trailer had an indie feel to it, but when we watched the movie, it had a big budget feel to the cinematography and the direction. And just the cast alone, I was like, okay. How'd you pull all that off? But
probably money and favors and friends. You know, a lot of people probably work, you know, she got her fiance starring in it. So, you know, a lot of times you have resources when you're in those kind of situations. You have friends you could call to do a little something. Like I'm an artist, so I got artist buddies I could call for certain things I would probably need. So
right. Well, and Channing Tatum's also a co-producer on the film too, with her.
Yeah.
So
right. And so for all we know, that island and that house could be her dad's. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me that she would have certain resources. So yeah, Haley Joel Osment from Sixth Sense. So it was funny to see him in there because he was just recently used in a Kendrick Lamar song when he was dissing Drake. So it's just funny how he was just talking about him last month in his diss record, and now he's in this movie. But it was good to see him.
Oh yeah.
So, what was your thoughts on this movie? And matter of fact, when you saw the trailer, what did you think?
I thought it was going to be on some midsummer type of thing. I thought it was going to be dark and creepy, and I was intrigued. I was intrigued by the trailer. I was intrigued by the premise, because when I think of Zoë Kravitz, she's done some supporting roles, and she's been okay. But when I saw this trailer and I saw that it was directed by her, I was like, okay, maybe this might be it for her. So, but I like the trailer. And I never thought I'd be saying this. But Channing Tatum has definitely become a good actor. Definitely. He's not just a pretty face anymore. The trailer was a success because I wanted to see the film after watching the trailer. For you and I, we see trailers all the time. And thinking about it right now, if I watch a trailer and I'm like, no, it's a fail. Every time I saw that trailer, I was like, okay. And I knew that was her boyfriend in real life. I'm like, okay, no, this is different. This looks interesting. You know, because it's this pretty black girl named Frida and her girlfriend, her roommate. And in the trailer, the roommate disappears. So I'm like, okay, so something's going on. But yeah, I knew I wanted to see it just out of sheer curiosity. But no, the trailer was good. I thought the trailer was very intriguing. I thought Channing Tatum looked very dark. I'm not used to seeing him that way. I'm used to seeing him being the funny, good-looking guy who's getting ready to bust a move and dance. But lately, Mr. Tatum Channing Tatum's got divorced. He's a single dad. So he gone through some things. He been living life. And it's not just about busting the move no more. So he's earning his chops. And it's interesting too, because it's so easy to be dismissive of good-looking people in Hollywood, but often we go see these movies that have good-looking people in them from Hollywood. So, so it's just like, I can't be mad that you're a good-looking person in Hollywood. So, you know, but either you can act or you can't act. You know, so, but when I saw him in Deadpool as Gambit, I was like, okay, all right. So, yeah, but no, the trailer was good. No, the trailer got me into the theater, and I'm glad it did. So, yeah. What about you?
I really enjoyed the trailer. It really had me excited for the movie. I'm a sucker for like twisty ideas and hooks and stuff, so I was kind of hoping it would be like advertised. The premise seemed pretty cool. In a way, it almost seemed like it showed too much, but then it was almost done in a way where it didn't really take away from it. I didn't feel like I had nothing else to see with this movie. I kind of got an idea of what it was going to be about. And it was an interesting premise. It's very topical to things going on now, or things that's been coming up lately. So that was kind of cool. It seemed relevant. It seemed twisty. It seemed kind of dark, like you said. I'm thinking like, are we going to have another, Jordan Peele type director and writer on our hands, and this, doing this kind of different perspective of things that we hear about, so I'm always looking forward to things like that, new perspectives, and she definitely has a strong style and everything. I know it's hard to kind of tell off with just one project what somebody's style is, but like you said, it didn't feel like a novice at this. It definitely felt thought out well and shot pretty well and things like that. Yeah, I thought the story is interesting. Like I said, was it different than what I thought it was going to be? In some ways it was, in other ways it was kind of as advertised as well. So I did enjoy it, and I did wonder what was going to happen, and they played a lot of things close, and so we kind of learned as the main character learned things. So it was kind of interesting to go along like that, because sometimes we'll be in movies where we know more than the person we're dealing with, and that could be kind of frustrating because we want them to know, like, hey, you're in this situation, or hey, do this or do that. But we were kind of in the same situations as them, learning and getting information as they did. So that gave it a different kind of vibe that I enjoyed. So would you recommend this movie?
I'm glad you asked me that. Yes, I would definitely recommend this film. It was an excellent film. I'm still processing that ending. I'm still processing that. And I think that's great that I'm still processing it. Because it's just, the ending wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It had a nice twist to it. It reminded me of, in some ways, A Promising Young Woman. I want to tell other people about this film, but I'll wait till we get to the spoiler part. But the film was a lot darker and deeper than I thought it was going to be, but I liked that because it gave me something to chew on. Yes, but I definitely recommend this film. The cinematography was amazing. Her shots were, I didn't feel like Zoë Kravitz was a first-time director and writer. I didn't feel that way at all, and I'm surprised, but I'm happy. I feel like I definitely want to encourage her to do more. I think this is probably her calling. This is a great beginning. This type of film, I don't think would have been allowed to have been made 20, 30 years ago because of the subject matter. And I would say the same thing about Promising Young Woman in that regard. So, like the Da Vinci Code, this is a fictional film that had truths in it that I could feel when I was watching it.
But would you recommend it?
Yes. I would definitely recommend this film. Yeah. I think there might need to be an age limit on it.
It's rated R, so there's an age limit on it.
Okay, good. Okay. So, let me ask you a question. So, is it appropriate for a 16-year-old to watch, or should they be 18? Because it's rated R. Is it rated R is what, for 17 now?
Yeah, 17 or 18, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So it kind of depends on what your kid watches. But, I wouldn't take my kid to it. But I wouldn't take my kid to a lot of movies that I watch that have a whole bunch of stuff kind of going on. So you kind of pick and choose. The subject matter is, like they said in the trailer, some young ladies going to a rich man's island. And so if you can't kind of, come up with what you think that would happen on that kind of a situation, then I don't know what to say. that kind of lets you know the kind of things that could be happening there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, because of what you and I watched.
Yeah.
I have a niece that's 21 and one is 18. If they were here, I would take them to see it.
That's fine.
Because I feel like it's a cautionary tale, if that makes any sense. So, but not every kid's ready for that. So I get that too. But
would you recommend it for grown folks who listen to our podcast? Would you recommend it to them? Because it's not like my daughter would necessarily be listening to,
Yeah, I think Zoë Kravitz made a movie that should be analyzed and talked about in the future because of what it showed. Because it accurately describes the times we're living in right now, unfortunately. So, yeah, I think she made something bigger than herself, actually. And I think that's great for any artist. Whenever an artist can do that, you've already succeeded to me. When you can make something bigger than yourself without even realizing you're doing it. That's kind of the whole point, But yeah, you were saying?
I recommend it. If you saw the trailer and felt like that's something, that a story or premise that you find interesting, then I think you'll be entertained by it. So I think the trailer is a good judge of the kind of movie it is. Yes, I would recommend it. Okay, so if we go into the spoiler portion, I thought it was interesting from the beginning. The premise, the girl kind of being excited about hitting up. Well, from the beginning, you could tell that our lead, her name is Frida, and with Channing, his name was Slater, and you could tell that she was infatuated with him. And at first I thought it was going to be like this stalker situation. It felt like that, to the point where, she had a roommate that was her friend. Her friend was named Jess, and, they were kind of working together, and they hard times, need money and situations like that. And she's just on social media, like I said, learning about the guy, what's going on with him. And through her eyes, we hear that he's going through some kind of scandal, and we don't know exactly for what. And he's doing an apology tour, and he's disappearing from the limelight. And he's this billionaire over all these, electronic things and all this other kind of stuff. So he's one of those kind of tech billionaires. And so, definitely she's a fan of his. And they're going to work at this gala that he's putting on, for fundraising. And we see her, walking into the situation. He had a backpack on, and she's walking through the kitchen, and so, she's working. Okay, she's like a waitress or something like that. Then we see eventually that she's at the gala that Slater's putting on, and she's even being warned by her supervisor, like, "Hey, last time you being a little too friendly with him, I need you to kind of just stay in your place, kind of don't do too much socializing." "Oh, I won't." So I thought it was very interesting. And what ended up happening, she's socializing and, working her way into the guy's orbit in a way. And he takes a liking to her, and she's flirting hard, and he's kind of flirting back. And, she's having the time of her life because she gets a chance to hang out with this dude that, that she admires or whatever. And then her and her friend is invited to go on his island, because he nowadays, after the scandal and everything, he kind of just dips away, and goes off to his island. And I thought it was interesting because she was kind of like asking him, like, "Hey, do you still have those scandalous parties?" And, like she wanted to go off to a freaky island party. And he's like, "No, after the whole thing, we just kind of chill. We don't go for all that now. We have a good time. We just, not as crazy." And so I think it's, but like I said, it was just interesting considering the situation they ended up getting into. A lot of it she kind of put on herself, and even though it sounds messed up, that's kind of the truth of the situation. And I think that's what kind of threw me off a little bit, because when things turn bad, I couldn't help but think, like, all these different things that came to you to deter you to maybe try or don't go a certain kind of route or to avoid kind of things, she kind of just went towards it. And, and just like the judgment of the situation kind of turned bad. Because I never thought, like, even her and her friend, maybe when they got to the island, they even joked. It was like, when does the sacrifices start? It's like, so they knew they were in a possible bad situation and was even joking about it, And so I thought it was kind of interesting, like, why even accept a situation like that when even the characters in the story is saying, like, this is probably going to be bad. And with them saying that, it almost make you wonder, like, well, the premise of this sound like this would be a bad thing, but then, the movie might show us something different. We might be wrong. It might be a misunderstanding. We don't know, right? But it kind of was as advertised.
Yeah, well, when I talked about how I was processing the ending, you made me remember too that, and like you just said, she was obsessed with him to an extent. Right. But she also was similar to him and identified with him. Remember when they were walking on the grass and he said that he couldn't remember anything before 10 years old? And she's like, why would you want to remember? And she talked about her mom doing drugs in front of her and how she's happy to forget. And she said she's the one that said forgetting is whatever to him. Maybe he had said it to her back in the day and she didn't remember that. But when I think about how it ended and that twist at the end, I'm like, okay, well, in some ways they're two of a kind. She didn't ask to be abused, and what he did was horribly wrong. And that whole premise of all those men on the island, that was really more about power, because all those women there were going to do what you wanted, but that's not what these guys were interested in. To me, that was about the power dynamic of, and that's what the whole rape aspect, I guess, is about power. It's not even really about sex itself. It's about the power of it, So
right. We also socially know that certain things would be conducive to certain things, and that's why you don't, you kind of don't fool with certain things. It's almost kind of like when you go to a casino, you're going to go lose money and probably not going to win. When you go to a strip club, you're going to see some stuff, you're going to pay for some stuff, but you can't take it home with you. So it's just these social things with these questionable things that happen, but we know that, it doesn't always work in your favor. And that's why people avoid the strip clubs or avoid the casinos, because they know that the house always wins. And so some people go and they take their chances, and some people avoid it at all costs. So people can do what they want, but we can't act like things aren't what they are. Because it's funny. My lady, I asked her to see the trailer, and I asked her, what did you think was happening in this movie? Because I just want to do a test just to see. And she sees the trailer, and she says, oh, it seemed like these girls went to this island to hang out with these rich guys that they don't know, and it kind of turns bad. I was like, yeah. And I was like, so if they offered that to you and you had a chance to go, would you think it'd be all right to go? She's like, no. Okay. Now, you could go, and you should be able to go and have a good time and no issues happen. But when you saw that, even though that wasn't even you knew that more than likely power, seclusion, all the other kind of stuff, we never hear good stories about that kind of stuff. We never do. And so, I don't know. I know what she was probably trying to do with this, but I took something totally different from it, and it's just interesting. But movies have different interpretations.
Sure. Well, I'll say this though, with the patriarchy that we live in, I understand why 20-something women, maybe even 30-something women, would be attracted to a rich man who has his own island, who has rich friends. They're going to go party and drink. And this is what, when it comes to the human condition, that still baffles and intrigues me at the same time, because the sexual assault is the worst part of this, of course. And then to me, the second part of this is that it was unnecessary, because when we watched that film, I felt like these ladies were down for whatever. They were down to have a good time. So, but, it's just something deeply disturbing and pathological about these type of men and predators, that they can only get off if they take advantage of you, bound and tie you up to have their way. I mean,
that's why you don't even do it. That's why you make certain choices. It's like, you can't be like, I'm getting into a drunk driver's car and you want to make sure he drives straight. It's no guarantee. You could get home safely and you could end up dead. And I'm not saying people don't make bad decisions. People do what they want. I'm just saying it looks different. Now, if I would have saw them girls getting drugged and woke up on the island like, wait a minute, how did I get here kind of thing, versus like, hey, I'm going to skip the line and get things in my life that I can't get by associating or hanging tight to somebody, and the cost of that may be higher than you think. That's the thing with anything everything costs, I guess. Everything costs. And we take chances of the things we're going to go through for the chances we take. And that's with anything.
And I agree with you. But
like, I understand people selling drugs to make money because they need money or need food or whatever, right? But there's a risk to that. Some people think it's worth it to be like, hey, I might sell a little drugs. I morally don't feel it's wrong. But if I get caught, they're going to treat me as if I was the worst thing in the world. Exactly. Even though, you know what I mean? So, but that was their choice. Now, is it fair that they get hit the way they get hit for what they're doing? I don't feel it's fair. The police thinks it's fair. The legal system thinks it's fair. I don't think it's fair. And you have the ones that choose not to because it's not worth the risk. But they kind of know that what comes with the choices I make, these things could possibly happen.
Well, yes, and there was even dialogue when the girls were starting to remember what happened after drinking the snake venom. Yeah. She said, what the hell did we just do? And I'm glad that Zoe gave us that moment where the women realized they got swept up in the hype. They were victims of the hype, and which happens. I mean, you see a good-looking, charismatic, rich person, because I asked myself, you know, what if it was reversed? What if it was a beautiful, rich, billionaire woman who gave me attention, and I'm in my 20s, and she's like, I got my own island, and these are my hot friends, and we're going to go. You want to come? I'm going to be like, yeah. And now, I'm not thinking she's going to, you know, roofie me to a whole new level. I mean...
Yeah, you wouldn't think that because you're a guy. But if you thought it was like this chick and maybe you wasn't necessarily attracted to her, or maybe you were attracted to her, you would still know that she's going to pull the same power stuff that a guy would, because that's a power situation. And people will be looking at you like you didn't know that she was going to try to sleep with you. We would look at you like you were crazy, man. And when I'm your boy.
Well, I know. And you're right.
And I'd be like, really?
I know, but here's the thing, though.
Okay.
I mean, but I see it. I can easily see both scenarios going the same way, because when you like somebody, you can talk yourself into anything. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not excusing it, because I've done it. You know, where I just ignore all those red flags. Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm just saying there's a consequence with it. And like I said, and even though I know this movie probably was trying to do a thing where it's associated with Me Too, and then, you know, the situation of girls being roofied and stuff like that and all that kind of stuff, you know, but they also are the victims, but they're victims that kind of, you know, like I said, it'd been different if those girls are being kidnapped and then waking up or being drugged and put there without them. I don't know. It's just the way it's tied in just seems like it's mixing things together. I guess that's my issue with it, is kind of mixing things together. It's almost kind of mixing in people who make good decisions with people who make bad decisions. And sometimes you can still end up in the same place, but how you get there, how about this? You can always lower your chances by making different choices that would be conducive to your situation.
Well, and that's right, Jay, and I agree with you. But the only complaint I have about this film, the only real complaint, the only dialogue that was missing was for one of the ladies to say to the man before she hurt him that you didn't have to do this. All you had to do was just ask. But because you didn't, now you're going to pay. Because that's the truth. It wasn't that those ladies wouldn't have done those things, but the fact that
you think the guys didn't. You think the guys didn't know that though? The guys knew that too. Any guys inviting you to go to an island, they say yes. I'm sure they knew that they could get
right. But I still wanted it to be said, because it needed to be because when I saw the ladies remember and I saw their anger, I was like, yes. I didn't have no problem with how they want to retaliate. I was clapping them on. I understood. I'm like, yes. Because
they were violated. Of course they're going to be mad.
Yes.
Of course they're going to be mad. Yeah. So I'm not saying that it wasn't right. I'm just saying that, you know, that the guys knew they could have got it anyway, just being rich.
But I hate that. I mean, you and I can just talk. You and I are talking about how, you know, this was all about power, and I hate that there wasn't any real dialogue about that. The whole thing about there being no forgiveness and Channing Tatum's scene as Sleater saying sorry, that was a very powerful moment, and I enjoyed all of that.
There was.
Yeah.
There was.
He did a great job. But yeah, I definitely wanted it to be addressed that this is a power thing, and that these women saw that, and they're like, "I'm punishing you because all you had to do was ask, and you just went a whole other route that you didn't have to go, and you need to pay for that." But I like this film a lot because it's definitely a cautionary tale. The ending, like I said, I'm still processing, but I feel like Frida, as damaged as she was and as pure as she was, there was a part of her that was like Sleater. And I think that's what attracted him to her. Because he said, I'm not going to kill you. You're like my best friend. So he saw a little bit of himself in her. But the irony is, he didn't know he was going to regret that later. And he deserved to. It's just... Yeah, I would love to talk to Zoë Kravitz about that film and ask her some questions. Because I definitely want to buy it. I like it. And like I said, I walked away from it being a cautionary tale. But I see your perspective, and you are correct. You know, if I get in bed with a snake, I can't be mad when I get bit.
Like, I guess I don't have the same. I don't feel the same about a person who got drugged into something versus somebody who walked into something. But just like I said, just like those guys that, you know, say it's Flip, right? And it's a Cardi B situation. These guys think he's gonna, you know, get over on these strippers and he gonna sleep with them, and the girls end up drugging them and having guys sleep with them and taking their money and stuff and drugging the guys. Like Cardi B did stuff like that, right? Like, do I think it's a tragedy? Oh, hell yeah. Would I want that to happen to me? Oh, hell no. Did the guys walk themselves into that situation?
Yes.
Yes, they took the chance and it backfired. So anytime it's a situation where somebody is, you know, everybody's trying to get something for nothing or get over on somebody and it backfires, that's the price that you can possibly pay for playing games like that.
Well, and the minute the ladies start doing multiple drugs and didn't know what day it was, I'm like, what are you doing? I don't care how fine you are. I'm not doing multiple drugs with you and you ain't already my woman or my wife.
Yeah, but like I said, that might, for some of them, that might be a thing they did where they just kind of partied and did stuff. So, you know, that could just be their lifestyle.
But we were watching that. I was nervous. Like, what are they doing? But then,
because you got sense, and you wouldn't do that, and you wouldn't want your siblings to be doing it. You wouldn't want your, so me
my
either.
Nieces,
so I'm watching it more like, what's going on, right?
No.
And maybe if I have like a daughter, maybe I would have watched this movie differently. But for me, it's like this doesn't make any sense. Like I wouldn't want to hear no, Daddy, I went to a guy's island and this happened to me, because I would have stopped her at, you went to where with what? Man, before you even get to the part that happened, the part where it really happened is that you got on that plane with that strange guy going to an island. That would have been the part I would have started out, not at what he did to me days later. No. The fact that you got on the plane and where did I go wrong?
Exactly. Look, I already spoke with my 18-year-old niece. I'm like, don't go to no party by yourself. I mean, with a bunch of men. Go with your girlfriends. Watch the drinks. So I'm talking, and she already, and she already had that conversation, but I wanted to make sure. So like you said, where do I go wrong? Because I'm thinking of myself. I'm thinking, I gotta have this conversation with her. So
what's crazy is, and I feel old fashioned and stuff, but it's just like that's the reason why, even though I know it's hard and stuff for dating and finding people and coupling up for guys and for girls, it's hard. But it's something about having somebody in your life, a significant other or somebody that looks out for you to speak, to help you, like if you're wondering about something or saying something to you, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. If I was, it was my sister or something, I would speak up. If it was my daughter, I would speak up. If it was my lady, I would speak up. It's like,
you on point all the way around, bro. You on point.
You know what I mean? Just being out there unconnected. We are together to take care of each other, right? The guys to kind of protect, the woman's to kind of look out, because the stuff that the guy ain't seeing, she spots it. You know what I mean? It's a team thing. So there's power in that. We got these free women just doing whatever they want to, getting in these crazy situations. But do you think if somebody had a boyfriend or husbands and stuff, they would be out there doing that, or even chasing down somebody that they don't even know, looking for a situation that they can't handle? Like, I don't know, man. I know the movie wasn't made for me to take it like that, but it's just like, we got to get together.
But you know what, though, Jason? I'm glad she made that movie. Like I said, for me, it's still a cautionary tale. Because and what we didn't speak about, you and I spoke about it in the theater. This film, I felt a Jeffrey Epstein vibe. I felt a White Lotus vibe. And I felt a David Lynch vibe. And I felt like she meshed that all together successfully very well. I wasn't expecting to feel any of that when I watched that film. Maybe at Epstein, I hadn't really thought about it, but when we were watching it, I'm like, oh, Epstein. What part of this is from Epstein? What part of this is from Epstein? Well, and then the White Lotus, I'm like, the whole White Lotus vibe, the clueless people partying away, you know, they're narcissistic and just sociopathic. This is just really interesting. And then with the workers, the Latin, you know, the indigenous workers not saying too much, and then the Red Robin, and then all that reminded me of Lynch and Twin Peaks. And then Kyle MacLachlan's in it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool that it wasn't Jordan Peele, but it was very kooky. It was still kooky enough that I liked it. It was interesting. I liked the soundtrack. I liked the score. I love the cinematography. I love her shots. Like I said, for a first-time director, I didn't feel like she was.
Yeah, she did a great job. Like I said, my issue is just kind of like what I took from it. Like, but was it shot well and stuff? Yeah, it was shot well, you know. And how can you not think of Epstein when you hear of a rich guy with an island and you taking these girls that you don't really know to the island? Like, you know.
But it got darker though. I mean, when we found out that she had been there before and that scar on her head was from him.
Like I said, even without knowing that, it was still a bad idea. It was still a bad idea, regardless.
And what do these men do in this patriarchy specifically? They know how to pick them. They know how to pray. They know how to use their fame, their wealth, and their good looks to sway a woman. Because had this guy been, you know, Joe the plumber, who said he had a spot, they probably wouldn't have went. But because he was
she wouldn't have been chasing him down. She wouldn't have been stalking him on Facebook or Instagram trying to find him. Like I said, she ran into her own trap. She fell into her own trap. But that happens with anybody who's trying to get something for nothing or trying to be in a situation that's not for them.
But
that's the thing. You living outside yourself. That's what happens when you shop or buy too much food and more than you could eat, or buy more stuff than you could carry. You know, it's all those kind of situations.
But she found a way to stop the abuse. But she did it in such a dark way.
You know what the real trip of the movie was for me? Is that even though she had went all that stuff, and when I first saw the movie and I saw her start out and we saw that little scar on her head when she had her short hairstyle, I was thinking like, did she ever have something bad happen to her and she forgot about it? Because that's what I automatically thought.
Right.
Because it didn't look that old of a scar. And I was thinking like, well, that don't make no sense because the movie hasn't got to that point yet. So it didn't make sense to me. But it looked like she had already went through it. So I thought it was going to maybe be a flashback to what happened. And when that didn't happen, it kind of threw me off. So when they said later on that she was there before, oh, that makes sense. But what was crazy to me, and it says a lot about just people, and I don't know if it was meant to do this or not, but it showed me that she went through all that stuff, right? The first time. And she was wiped clean. Right? And so allegedly the way that it works in this world is that she doesn't remember it anymore, right? It's stripped from her. She doesn't know, right? She ended up doing the same thing, running back into the same bad situation with the same bad person with a clean slate.
But remember what I said though, Jay? The reason why he liked her, but think about this though. Why did he want her?
No. Regardless, she didn't have to go sneak into his party. She didn't have to go try to...
No, but let me...
She pursued him.
But let me tell you why. That's what I'm trying to get into. I said it earlier. She wasn't as abusive as he is, but they had some darkness that overlapped with each other. So she was already damaged.
I guess it doesn't change the fact that I'm saying that she pursued him again with a clean slate. I guess that's my point.
Well, she pursued him again with a clean slate because there was something already broken in her that was similar to his. Because when you look at the ending of how she wound up being his wife, controlling his company and drugging him, that just shows me that she's similar to him. She's just not as bad as him, but she had her darkness and his overlapped on some level. That's why she was ready to go back to that, because a part of her enjoyed that.
But that's on her though.
Sure.
But regardless, it's still her. My point is, she pursued him regardless, because she could not even know that about him with the clean slate.
Because
It could have been some other dude. But I'm saying she still went back to that.
Because she had darkness that was similar to hers, and the memory wipe didn't matter. It was already in her. She was already broken.
Exactly. It was already in her, already broken, and she kept making the same moves anyway. And I thought that was the most interesting part about it.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. Well, and it was, and that's and like I said, I may never finish processing that ending. And it bothers me, but it makes me excited at the same time that there's a film this year that I'm still tripping on the ending. Usually, I know I'm happy or angry or dismissive.
Yeah.
But that ending, I'm still like straight up. I really want to talk to Zoë Kravitz about that ending, like, because I'm like, I'm kind of like stuck. Like, it was dark. There was justice. But there's also embodying what you hate. I mean, you stopped the abuse, but you also created abuse at the same time. So did you really stop it? But did he?
Because she. Well, regardless, she chose herself and money, fame, and attention over justice. Because the justice would either be to turn him in or let him burn in the burning house. She chose herself.
Yeah, but we saw that thing that she was doping him with. Because he didn't.
She chose herself.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
So what makes her any
herself.
different? So in that case, she's not too much different from him. She just don't have the body count.
Regardless, she wasn't caring about the justice for everybody or making things right. She took care of herself. But that's the same thing that got her in the situation in the first place.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So it's
going out for herself. Because even her friend was saying, hey, something's not right. She still chose herself. Her friend's like, hey, her friend Jess, hey, I don't feel right about this place. Don't you feel it? Isn't it weird? Don't you feel it's wrong?
Because
give me this. Give me this. I'm being seen. Give me this. She chose herself continuously.
Because
she kept getting into the situation.
Because
regardless, I'm just saying, however it is, whatever the reason, she chose herself over justice.
Because she was
and it rubbed me kind of, regardless, I'm just saying it rubbed me wrong because it was just kind of like, she didn't even try to make it right. So she's equivalent to the Gina Davis character when she just didn't want to remember. She knew what she did. She just made herself forget, and she didn't want to remember that she was a party of all that crap that she was a part of. Kind of, helping Slater get away with the stuff he was doing and all that kind of stuff.
So at the end of the day, this is really a movie about damaged people. I mean, all of them were damaged. Because let's not.
Anybody who's apologizing and got canceled and has an island and he's inviting some strangers that's going over there for a free ride to go hang out. Yes, that doesn't seem like somebody who's doing all right. That's not the kind of.
Well, you remember what he said too about how his sister remembers everything, and she's like, "How could you play tennis with that man after what he did to us?" Which implied that this man probably raped them. So there was all this trauma that was masked until it wasn't.
He's thinking that it's better to forget than it is to remember, and I understand that. And a lot of people try to do that, and it's not this magical, perfume. It's alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. It's a lot of people. Some people are in denial even without drugs and stuff. So that's
and when she said the therapist was for bullshit. When she said to him therapy was bullshit, it got really dark when she said that. Like, she was dismissing a therapist talking to her. I'm just like,
well, a lot of people have. Therapy didn't get kind of popular, especially with black folks, until recent years, where everybody's starting to feel comfortable about it. But that was kind of the sentiments of black people for a long time.
Yeah,
this whole new thing where it's just get your mind checked out and all that kind of stuff. That's pretty much new. That's pretty much new.
It is.
So for her saying that didn't throw me off, being dismissive of what I grew up in those times where you you prayed on it or put some bless oil on it. Even if you got your leg amputated, you just stick it back on, put some bless oil on it, and walk it off.
Ouch.
So,
but it was the way she said it to me that was very dark. The way she said it with anger and dismissiveness. And she said it's better to forget, and she meant that shit. And it was just like, no, you're fucked up. No, you're both broken and
most people can't handle the truth that they have anyway. we all have truths we don't really want to deal with or can't handle. So I understood it. I didn't take it as being like, I get it. I get it. And it's kind of the problem for a lot of us. It's just like, yeah, the problem is that we want to forget. The problem is that we don't want to have to change and make hard choices, or choices that seem hard, or it's not the quick way. We just kind of want to fast track everything. But, you get the results of things that you skip the line for. You pay the price for things that are quote unquote free. You skip the line, all that kind of stuff. It's a price for it. Like I said, the problem was the fact they got on but the price is they got on that damn plane to go to that island. And it's just unfortunate how it happens. And I know people have different ways of getting in situations and stuff like that. I don't know. The way I think that Jordan Peele, his take on things, the way he kind of unravels things, that makes him special to me. And this is just my example for why he could do something similar to this and it feels different for me. And it's like, for example, for Get Out, right? We had a situation where we got this black dude with this white chick. He meets the family and all hell happens. He's in this bad situation where even his life is in danger. And so, at least with his movies, it wasn't like the main guy, he was trying to, bag this white chick. I'm just trying to sleep with white girls or whatever. And she's kind of playing hard to get. And she kind of like, toys with him and gets him into this situation, and bam, he gets it. And he was wrong for trying to just, hit it and quit it with this white chick. And all this stuff turns bad on him. But no, it wasn't that kind of a movie. This was his long-term girlfriend, a girlfriend that probably treated him right. And she treated him right because she was up there trying to trap him. So she was being this ideal girlfriend who's buying coffee and donuts and stuff for him while he's sleeping and getting ready for the next day and being attentive to him and all this other kind of stuff. So for all intents and purposes, this girl loves him. He got him the one. He got this cool white chick that gives him attention, that loves him the way he wants to be loved. And so he's reluctantly getting pulled in a situation. Hey, I want you to meet my family. I don't really want to go with my family. My boy telling me I shouldn't go. We should go see my family. Just I want you to meet them because I never really introduced them to me. So he's reluctantly the whole time just trying to get pulled into a situation. And his better judgment, he's fighting it because he don't want to disappoint her and all this other kind of stuff. So the trappings of that is sweet to me because it's just like, yeah, that's how you would get trapped in a situation like that. He's reluctant the whole way, but he's doing it anyway for the right reasons. And so when things turn bad on him, I'm not only rooting for him because I just want him to win against the situation. It's also, he didn't put himself in that situation on purpose, right? He actually, it was quicksand instead of just a pit, right? And so I feel differently about his situation than I would somebody that I thought like, oh, he was trying to be a dog and it just turned bad on him. That would be a totally different movie. It could have been the same movie, but I would have felt differently about his situation and what happened at the end because of how his part he played in it. And I just wish I was a little bit more sympathetic in how the girls kind of got in that situation.
Well,
and not saying it's okay for the guys to be jerks and all that kind of stuff, just, but I'm just saying it just felt different because it was one of those kind of situations that, and yes, you should be able to party. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to live free life, but there's no such thing as that. There's no such thing as that. The reality is, and we know socially, there's things that are just a problem. Be it we like it or not, it could be a problem. And for us to act like it's not a problem, and it only becomes a problem when the bill comes, which it always does, that's not the time to realize things are a problem. It's a lot earlier when we could realize that things is a problem. If you see in your family there's alcoholism, you don't need to take the first sip to find out. If you know you got a bad heart and don't do certain things, then hey, at some point, be careful. If I know that in that dark corner, bad things happen on that side of town, you should be able to go where you want to. But I wouldn't just go driving down there. And that's me as a guy. I don't look for, I try to stay away from the problem spots. Now, should I be able to go anywhere I want? Yeah, I sure should be able to. But reality and the situation, tempers my movement and my judgment. Should I go spend all my money and do what I want to? Yeah, but if I have kids, shouldn't I consider my kids? Shouldn't I consider my family? So I'm just giving examples of how that works as far as we could do what we want to, but it's always a cost. And hearing somebody lost their job because they was paying medical bills for their wife or something and they went broke and whatever is different than somebody who, you know, blew all their money, you know, at a casino, and they could be in the same situation. But one didn't see it coming. The other person, they walked in and took their chances. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to victim blame or nothing like that. I'm just saying my perspective and how I took this movie when I saw it. And the movie was straight, man. I enjoyed it. It was tense. It was suspenseful. You just kind of wonder how things are going to come. They kind of tell you what's going to happen in the beginning, but it didn't line up like that. So you're thinking like, are the people really tripping? Is this stuff really happening? Then it turns out it really is what it said it was going to be, and how it unraveled and stuff. That was kind of neat. I think towards the end, it got a little, it went kind of fast. Like it kind of happened fast, but it kind of would have to, just because of the way things was unfolding. But even with that, it was just kind of like, you know, it's just like the woman shows the guy in the end, but it's just like, you shouldn't have to show the guy in the end. You shouldn't even have been in a situation, or it was just like a bad spot. Because in real life, it doesn't always work out where the woman outsmarts the guy or overpowers the guy. Like we get that in movies because that could work out like that, right? But in real life, you know, them girls have just been missing.
But I like the twist. And like I said, she was a narcissist too. You know, we just weren't focused on it. Because it takes a true narcissist to do what she did. I mean, because...
I wasn't surprised. Like I said, the whole time she was choosing her from the beginning.
Yeah.
From the beginning. So when they panned out and showed that he was in her lap, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, he wasn't in there cooking with the house? Oh, okay. I know where this is going to go. And it was a choice, and it was different, and I understand, because it almost shows like, oh, the woman got the guy, she showed him. But like I said, to me, it looked like you chose you, and really, to me, my thing would have been either he would have been frying in that house, or he would have been in jail, accountable for all the women and people he put in that situation. Because there was a guy in there too, in that situation. And it's funny, because they didn't really say it, but you kind of knew that he was also a victim too. This young pretty boy. And he was running around, you know,
scrambling and scraping for shit.
No. Trying to get away from the situation as well. So it was interesting, man.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Slater was attracted to Frida because he saw himself in her. He just didn't know how much. He had no idea that she could do to him what he was doing to her. Because at the end, that's what basically she did. She became his wife and took over his company, and she created a drug where she's over there dosing him because he didn't recognize his therapist. So and then she had him arrested.
But she wasn't right either, though. But she was wrong too.
I know.
Yeah, but the way it's shown is as if she showed him.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing she had a problem with him doing, and him going without being accountable for what he did. You know, I thought it was so crazy that she would do that. It's just like, man. Cause I was kind of hoping that she would do the right thing. She chose herself. When I saw that, I'm like, she's messed up, you know? And I'm not trying to be messy, but I want that dude either dead or in jail. I'm sorry.
I agree.
That's not good enough. He don't even know he's messed up. That's not fair. He get a blank slate. No.
You're right. I agree. But all of that's what makes the film so fascinating, is that was not your traditional ending. She didn't die. She saved her one friend, and she wound up being the master, I guess. It's just really...
Yeah, but that's normal for nowadays. That's like any other show where they have the woman that beats all the guys and triumphant at the end. You know? Now, if she would have died, the guys would have got away with it. That would be different. But you know, nowadays, that's not how movies go.
It's definitely a movie that gives you food for thought and opens up dialogue. So...
Yeah, you know what's funny is that, and I understand why they did it, but also I kind of felt like it was interesting that they did that. But they get a little trigger warning at the beginning, and I thought it was very interesting because one thing for sure, it had me on my toes the whole time, wondering, okay, what's going to be triggering? Because for everybody, it's going to be something different. I thought it was going to be some gory stuff or something like I didn't want to see, and something I couldn't unsee or something like that. And so it could be different for anybody else. So I think the fact that they put on there the thing about being, triggering, I'm like, that didn't help me at all. I thought it was a lot, and it had me anticipating stuff instead of kind of enjoying, because I was just waiting for the shoe to drop. And I thought even when they did show the stuff that was kind of crazy, at least it kind of unfolded, and it unfolded within the story where it kind of made sense, right? It wasn't like you just got thrown into it. You saw that they were waking up and understanding and remembering stuff. And so they got these little flashbacks. So all that stuff was really cool, but it was just like them putting that triggering, like I said, for me, when you heard about the girls hanging out with the guys on the island, I kind of knew what would kind of go with that. I didn't know what level or if it's going to be anything supernatural or what, but I knew it was going to be some wild stuff, be it by force or not. A lot of wild stuff was going to be going on that island just from the trailer. I kind of figured that was going to be the case. So, but yeah. Did she direct a nice movie? Yes, she directed a cool movie, but the way the story kind of played out at the end, I feel that was kind of like new person working it out. Yes. And like I said, everybody's not Jordan Peele, but I do appreciate stories like that where the stuff is kind of thought out already. You know what I mean? Like it's already worked out. It's like almost like a smart horror movie where them being trapped makes more sense versus like, hey, just jump in the car, or hey, use your cell phone. I like where you can't have the little escapes that you normally have. And you have to go down this path of, I have to go through this. This is it's no doors and no windows. I have to go down this hall. There's no other way. It's fire in the back, so I can't turn back and walk through the fire. So it's forcing me to go through, even though I don't want to. Versus there's a window over there. There's a trap door over here. There's a fire extinguisher that gives you all these other outs. I like when movies don't kind of give you an out, and then to me, it feels more grounded. And so, sometimes different artists take different routes, or they don't have that kind of finesse for things. So it's just a style that, but saying this is a fun movie wouldn't be quite correct. I mean, fun like it's entertaining because it's something different, and you kind of seeing her take on this situation, because we know it's related to some stuff that's going on in real life. And like I said, we see the white parties and the different kind of parties people have, be it on islands or be it, in the Hamptons or whatever. Stuff like this kind of goes on with these wild parties, and we see pictures of it all the time on Instagram or Facebook, like Black excellence or politicians hanging out with different people, so we see this stuff all the time where these hierarchy or these folks, kind of got these things going. It's a whole different kind of lifestyle and different things kind of going. And so sometimes we'll see it from on the other side of the fence, wishing that we were over there, but do we really want to? Is the cost really that? We learned that from the whole Diddy stuff and his parties and stuff. We're learning that those parties that we would love to be able to go. Who wouldn't want to go to a cool party like that if your favorite people are there, favorite celebrities and politicians, having a grand old time? Until we find out what was really going on. And some stuff we saw on accident, didn't even know what we were seeing. So we gave them benefit of the doubt to people who didn't even earn it with us.
Yep.
They barely earned our money that we pay for the stuff that we get from them.
Yep.
So we can't extend ourselves to people that did not earn it with us. So, this movie kind of focuses and kind of talks about hero worship and stuff like that, and perceptions and all that kind of stuff. It's almost like that waterfall song, stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. And it's not to check you or put you in your place or tell you what you can't do, but, it does keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, it does. I agree. It was just a very interesting film. And like I said before, this type of story wasn't going to be made 20, 30 years ago because of its content. It's showing certain men in a certain way. And it's another good example of all the glitters ain't gold.
Right.
So, like I said, there's so many different lessons to be learned from this. Common sense. Don't be fooled by all the glamour and glitz. And just use your head. But like I said, even when Frida and the TV reality star girl became friends, started bonding, that was nice. That was unexpected. Because clearly at first they were rivals for Slater.
They were fighting for the same problem that they both didn't want. Isn't that ironic?
Yes, it is.
They were fighting each other for a prize that they both didn't want. But it was interesting how they kind of showed the tricks that, those situations happen with the, hey, I thought you knew them. Hey, I thought you knew them too. Just how all the stuff that was kind of swirling and the assumptions that was made and how the board was kind of set up to take advantage and stuff. I thought that was very interesting. Because we know that's kind of how it goes, but it was neat to, for them to see that was going on with it. I thought it was very powerful about the things, how they were kind of talking code a little bit when she was saying like, hey, when you was on that show, Learn How to Survive, who knew how that would, relate to other things in your life? How it wasn't pointless, even though they was running around in bikinis all day, climbing trees and stuff, that that stuff, were survival. If I was stuck on an island and needed to get out. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It was.
But you're not gonna always be the girl who was on a Survivor show that's resourceful. You're not gonna be the girl that's good at shooting guns and stuff like that. And the thing is, if you're in a situation that doesn't need you to be those things and have those things, then that's the best place to be. You know what I mean? Like, you could be a tough guy, but the best situation is a place where you don't have to use it, where you don't have to be that tough guy.
I agree.
Like, I want to be dad. I don't want to be the defender if I don't have to. If I have to, then no problem. But I shouldn't be in a place that will have my family in danger, and now I have to be in that place where I could possibly get hurt or killed trying to defend something that's important to me.
Right.
The good thing is for your family and your loved ones to keep you in a good place where you don't put yourself in danger. And we see so many situations where, especially like lately, where mothers might be getting their sons in situations where they're killing people for their moms, or getting killed because girlfriend is getting into it with somebody and the guy's trying to defend his girl, and the other guy ended up killing the guy. It's just so much stuff. And it's crazy how, even though you could be putting yourself in danger, you could put your loved one in danger. And usually the person who's going to run up and be trying to defend you is going to be the man. And they're the same ones who end up dying trying to defend something silly, not even a real situation.
Yep.
Well, a situation worth dying for, let me put it like that. But yeah, she did a good movie. She did a good job. And like I said, I understand it's her first movie and probably her first, writing a movie and stuff like this, which she should be applauded. But it's funny, even though the trigger warning was for something else, I got triggered in another way.
The irony. Oh, the irony.
Yeah. But maybe it's because of the times that we're in now, and then me having a 17-year-old daughter and all that kind of stuff. Maybe it's all the things. The stuff in the news lately, and the needless killing of black men and women, or just people in general. Just the craziness of the world. It's just interesting. So something like this, I would probably take lighter. I kind of took it like just, not that it wasn't a heavy situation, but I'm just saying I took it to heart, probably because it's just everything as of lately.
I understand.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Keith.
Not a problem, bro.
It was good watching it with you.
It was.
It's entertaining.
Definitely, and I'm glad we saw it. And I think it's definitely a movie that we should be talking about. So,
but it was ambitious. And like I said, she probably spoke to some stuff that she either, heard of. And like I said, we heard of things like this too, or maybe actually even witnessed.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That's the scary part.
You're an artist, you can't help to share your truth in your art. Sometimes we try to be slick and think we're being creative, but those who know us or know how to read art, we know
right
like, hey, see right through it.
See right through it, bro.
You ain't hiding nothing. All the answers are in that song. All the truth is in that painting, and all the stuff is in that play. All the stuff in the movie. It's hilarious how we be thinking we're slick. And those who know be knowing.
Yeah, you already know, man. Yep. No, you're right. I agree.
So any last words you'd like to say about this movie?
Definitely recommend it. It's a good film. Zoë Kravitz did a great job directing this film and co-writing it. I look forward to seeing what she does next, and I definitely want to own this on DVD or Blu-ray. I definitely, if you want
really?
food, yeah, because it's great coffee table conversation. It's a great movie to discuss. So, and I think, like Promising Young Woman, it's a film that should be talked about in school. So before we got online, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said to me, 1 out of 5 women that's been assaulted, she said either 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4. And I'm just like, yeesh. Because as a guy, I don't think about stuff like that. But
usually when we get assaulted, we don't say anything. Or society says it's all right that you got molested by an older woman. So
when it's not.
We probably got messed up numbers too, but we are not saying anything, or we wear it as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. That's all problematic too. But no, I definitely want to own this film. I would love to talk to Zoë Kravitz one day about it, especially that ending. I'm still chewing on that. It's just really interesting. And she's got me wanting to go watch the second season of White Lotus now. Because I never watched the second season.
So when you say it reminds you of White Lotus, because that's basically about rich folks and a resort. And so are you talking about like the staff and stuff and the rich people being kind of clueless kind of thing? Or what part of it is why you reminds you of? Okay.
Yes, the staff, the rich people being clueless, the aesthetic, the music. All of the above.
Yeah, I like White Lotus because the perspective is more on the staff than it is the people that's visiting. Even though you do know about them, it's almost from the staff's perspective of these silly rich folks. You know, in most movies it'd be from the rich person and not really know anything about the staff. So I think that's what kind of makes White Lotus special. And season 2 is really good too.
I can't wait to watch it.
And they're working on season 3.
Right on. So I got to play catch up.
That's right on. Even though I had issues with the movie or certain things, it doesn't take away the fact that it was a competent movie. It was a great movie for a first-time director to be doing. I thought it was an interesting story that is relevant and modern. Speak the truth of certain situations. Like I said, I think that it's a lot in this, and it's a lot of different ways you could take it, which makes it cool. I got something different from it than I expected to get from it. Just seeing certain kind of things kind of threw me. But like I said, it might just be because I have a kid that's young, and I'm just pray and hope that, you know, she wouldn't be in those situations. And like I said, maybe if I feel like I didn't have any skin in the game, it would just be a thing that just like, okay. But when I think of, you know, like I said, the age of my kid and situations, I know it's always something out there that I don't take them lightly. It was well done, beautifully shot. Okay, so the chick that's playing Frida, she's not a traditionally movie star leading woman. Her look, okay? I thought it was very interesting. And the way that Zoe shot her wasn't really, it wasn't flattering. Let me put it like that. A lot of hard shadows, a lot of angles were a little bit not cool, and it didn't make the woman look really attractive. You know, it wasn't glamorous shots, you know. And I noticed the other women wasn't really shot like that. So I thought it was kind of interesting. And I was kind of wondering, was that woman picked and shot the way she was because she knew that she was going to be the lead to her fiance? And to be honest, I thought that from the beginning when I saw her. I was thinking, that's an interesting pick to be the person who's going to be, you know, Slater's love interest. I thought that was very interesting. So I was kind of wondering, was it something to that? Not that she would ever say that. But when I saw that, I was like, that's very interesting. Like I said, she's not the traditional woman that you would think would be in a situation like this. And like I was saying, we got all types of women that look all different kind of ways. But when I saw that choice, I'm like, that's very interesting. Now, if she would have had somebody that looked like her, like Zoe, like something like that, that'd have been different. But for her to have her as a choice for the lead for that situation, I thought was interesting.
Now, in regards to the actress who played Frida, I thought she was pretty. She had a natural look. I thought she was cute. And as the film progressed, I was getting more and more attracted to her. But I do like the fact that it was a non-traditional so-called black actress who didn't have nips and tucks and noses cut and lips is thinned. You know, I liked that it was a natural-looking black woman in the lead role. I liked it a lot, actually.
I just think it's interesting that it's rare and it happened on this movie.
Yeah.
And I wonder if her fiance wasn't playing the lead to her, would she had chosen the same actress? And I don't know, that hit me when I was watching the movie. I was like, because when I was directing my lady, trust me, my choice of her lead would be questionable. I'm honest enough to say that.
Me too.
You don't want to get Angelina Jolie, or you know what I mean? You don't want to get Angelina Jolie out there fooling around.
You're right.
With a potential replacement for you.
That happens. I agree.
So I ain't saying that's what happened, but I'm kind of saying I think that's what happened. Yeah. So this was a good one. But anyway, I did enjoy the film. I got a lot from it. I definitely think I'm going to watch it again. Like I said, if you were okay with the trailer, I think that you will enjoy the movie.
I agree.
Yeah. So thanks for coming through. It was good to see it in the theater with you. That was nice.
You too, Jay.
That doesn't happen as often as it used to, but when it does, that's a great thing.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So that was Jay and Captain Keith discussing the movie Blink Twice. Until next time, peace.
See you somewhere out in space.